welcome to my at-home yoga studio. A lot of the feedback I got on my Facebook page was to do 30 minutes or so of a flow and more welcome for beginners. And so this is a class that Joanne Varney at Breathe Together teaches, Core Release and Restore. It's based off of that. Of course, she teaches it differently because, you know, she's Joanne and she's amazing and so intelligent, has been doing so much work on yoga for trauma recovery. So she's one of my favorite human beings, and she inspires me to be a better yoga teacher, a more loving and compassionate human. And so I definitely recommend checking out her page, Joanne Varney. I will link it in my comments below. I'm just doing one based off of the classes that I've taken with her and the workshops, and sometimes I sub for her at Breathe. So this is sort of in that vein, just a very short and condensed version. So let's start in hands and knees. Okay. And we're just going to do a little bit of fingertip work here. So we're going to inhale as we lift the palms off the ground and see if you can keep the entire length of the fingers down on the mat. We're just lifting the palms. And you're going to feel a sensation of some type. I feel a little bit of burning in my fingers, especially right at the very base, in between the knuckles. And then maybe you lift up a little bit higher, just a little bit higher. Trying to keep the first knuckle down or the top knuckle down, and the middle knuckle can lift. And one more. And then exhale as we release, come down, shake, shake, shake. So this movement is to start moving the fascia or the webbing in between our muscles. So you know when you buy, well, I don't buy, but if you buy a steak at the store, I have like glitter all over my mat. If you buy a steak at the store, you'll see that like white-ish webbing that covers the muscle of the tissue. That is called fascia. And so we have that all over our body. And the thing is, when we don't open out, when we don't extend the muscles and then contract them again, we can't spread out the fascia. And it feels really nice to do that. So we're going to try that on our feet now, tucking the toes and then sitting back here. And notice your toes, if you can even get the pinky toes to untuck. So they might curl under. Just bring your hands down and then sit here. Nice and straight, spine gazing towards the front of the space wherever you are. And this could be excruciating for you. Might feel really lovely. Who knows? And then exhale, come back down, tabletop position, and then tap the feet here. Inhale, sending your right arm up high. Exhale as you thread it through, resting on the shoulder, the side of the head, and then maybe if you'd like, the left arm can reach out towards the front of the mat. And if there's any other variation of this pose you'd like to go into, go ahead. I'm going to stay here in the more gentle version. And I'm trying to find length along the left side of my body, but also a little bit of twist along the right. And so my right hand isn't just a dead hand here. I'm reaching my fingertips towards the side of the room. Reach, reach, reach. And I'm pushing the hand down as well. One more breath. Exhale as you draw the left hand back under your shoulder. Inhale, send the arm back up to unwind. And exhale, right hand comes down to the ground. Take a moment to feel that. And then inhale, send your left arm up. Exhale, threading it through. Resting the head, the left top shoulder, and maybe if you'd like, right hand inches its way up, up, up as long as it can. So you're finding a deep stretch from the fingertips out through the right hip. And take a deep breath here. One beautiful exhale, right hand comes under shoulder as you inhale, send the left arm up high. Exhale, tabletop position. Having a seat any comfortable seat that works for you. So for today's Breathe Together challenge, the word is ahimsa, which is the first yama. It's perhaps the most important. Almost all the yamas stem from ahimsa. You could just lead with that, and the rest are sort of webbed from that one word. Ahimsa means no harm. Or another word to look at it for today is compassion. And if that isn't a perfect word to emulate right now, then I don't know what is. Because as we are practicing staying home and being sheltered in place, that is an act of ahimsa. It is an act of compassion for those in our lives who have weaker immunities, who might be a little older, and who might really suffer if they end up getting this virus. And so by us doing something as simple and as difficult as staying home with our families, the more compassion that we are practicing. So let's put that out into the world today and just practice with compassion, okay? So coming back into your tabletop position, making sure your shoulders are over your wrists and your hips are over your knees. We're going to start doing a little bit of core work. So when I talk about core work, I'm not just talking about these muscles, those little six-pack muscles, because those six-pack muscles are actually really tiny. They're at the surface. Surface muscles aren't usually your strongest. That's what they might look good on those bodybuilders, but they're really deep muscles you can't even see. So I don't have a six-pack. I likely never will. I don't work out these tiny little muscles. I work out my deep muscles, my transverse abdominals. I work out my obliques. And you can't always see that, but I can feel it. So when I try to practice these difficult moves like handstand, headstand, I'm using these deep muscles. But your core isn't just here. Your core is also your low back. It's also the hip flexors and those outer and inner leg muscles. And it's also the glutes. So when we're working on our core, we're working on the middle trunk of our body in every single way, okay? So let's start some core movement here. Taking the left leg out long from our tabletop position. And you can choose here from several different variations. You can take that left knee and bring it towards the left elbow, okay? And you can move in that way, and you'll do that 5 times. If you want to do more of an external hip work, you're going to take an external opening, so that knee is going to go out towards the edge of your mat and then forward to the tricep and out again. So they're going to feel a little different. You pick which one you want. Do 5 of them total. Working with the contraction and then the extension. And when you're done with your 5th one, find your way into a child's pose. Try to touch the arm with that leg if you can. Exhale. Child's pose. Bring your arms down to your sides, resting your forehead down into the ground. Noticing your breath here. How does it feel this Tuesday afternoon? And then we'll find our way back into tabletop position. This time reaching the left leg out long. And whatever you did on the other side, repeat here. So maybe the knee comes straight down and towards the arm, or maybe you go for the external rotation. Knee goes out wide like a rainbow until it touches the tricep. And then extend that out long. Try to keep your hips level if you can. So this is a little bit of hip and glute work. And after your 5th one, come back into child's pose. I like to hold my 5th one just for an extra little bit of work for 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Knees go wide. Child's pose, balasana. Notice what you can ground. The tops of the feet, the shins, the bottom of the knee, your forehead, gently releasing any stress you may be holding in your jaw or your mouth. And if your shoulders are hunched up, soften the shoulders away from the ears and just breathe here for a few more moments. Beautiful. Inhale, finding your way back up. We'll go through a few cat-cows before we're done with tabletop. Inhale, dropping the belly, gazing forward. Exhale, segmenting one spinal section at a time, low to mid to upper to the neck. And then once again, let's start from that low back as you drop the belly, mid back, sinks down, the shoulder blades draw together, and then finally the chin lifts as you gaze forward. Exhale, start from the low back. Move your way up. And let's do one more starting from the low spine, traveling slowly up, up, up. And let's reverse now. We're going to start from the neck, dipping the chin down to the chest, pushing the shoulder blades apart, mid back, low back until you tuck that tailbone. Imagine you have a tail and it's trying to go in between your legs. And let's start again from the upper back, gazing up. And then your shoulder blades squeeze together, mid back, low back. Once again, start chin, upper back, spreading, mid back. Find a little more space in a widening position. Last time, gazing up and flowing here. And coming to neutral spine, finding your way back into a seat. So we've been on tabletop for a while. Let's do a few wrist circles here. Pushing our wrists together, no rush. And then reverse direction. Shake, shake, shake. Bringing our hands behind our back, interlacing our fingers. And then inhale, see if you can begin to straighten the elbows while sending the gaze up to the sky. And you might end up touching the ground. If you do, feel free to hinge your hips forward slightly. And then draw your hands off your back, keeping a straight spine, gaze up. So we're finding more space along the front channel of the body. Maybe you start to shift side to side here. If it feels too much like a crunch in the back of the neck, feel free to gaze down. How's your breath? Is it slow and fluid, or is it shaky? Exhale. Release your hands back down to your knees and do a few shoulder rolls. And switch direction. Okay. So we're going to work a little bit with our shoulder mobility here. If you have a block, awesome. If you don't, you can grab a pillow or something that is about shoulder distance apart. So not too wide, not too skinny. I have a block nearby. You might have a book or a cardboard box. I'm sure you can find one item in your house that is about that wide or so. Okay, so I'm going to show you it from the side profile first so you can see what I'm talking about. And what we're trying to do is create as much of a dome in our back body as possible. And this is also going to engage some more core muscles. So bringing your hands onto your block and allow your palms to push down to the block while your fingertips are just grazing past it. So we're not holding on like this, just a gentle push of the block. Okay? And before we start anything, notice if your head is stacked over your heart, is stacked over your hips. Notice if you're leaning back, for example, or if you're leaning forward. Try to act as though your pelvis is a bowl, and that bowl has a bowl of compassionate fluid right in there. We want to keep that bowl stable. And then pushing the block away from you, you'll notice my shoulder blades start to pull apart, and there's a little dome back there. Now I could continue hunching the spine here, but I don't want to do that. I'm working more on the shoulders here, not the low back. So keep the low back engaged, strong core, while pushing the shoulders further apart. And then inhale as you lift the block up, keeping that spread in the shoulder blades. Eventually you're going to feel the shoulder blades start to squeeze back together again. And so you're going to have less muscles being used along the side of the rotator cuffs and the sides of the scapula. So about here is where my body wants to go right now. Oftentimes I'll see people go straight up to the sky, but you'll see my dome went away. So I need to go more in an angle for my body to feel like I'm using the muscles in a strong way. One more breath. And then exhale, slowly lower your prop as you shoulder roll here. So did you see that doming of the back? If not, feel free to message me, comment down below, and I will try to help you troubleshoot how we can feel that more in the lats. Okay, one more time. Push the block away. Fingertips reaching towards right out in front of you. Find even more dome of that upper back, keeping the low back navel to spine, but not hunching. Still working on a straight spine as much as you can as the shoulder blades peel away from each other, and then begin to lift. Keep lifting. You might be able to go a little higher this time. That's the good thing about movement. The more that we move, we start opening up the sticky areas, pushing some fluid in between those joints so we can find more movement with more ease as we practice. One more breath. Keep pushing, and exhale. Release. All right, so now it's your choice. If you want to take your prop, bend the elbows and reach it behind your head. I'm just going to release mine. I'm going to take my palms together into prayer position and then draw my thumbs to the back of the neck. And then once there, push your head back into your triceps. You might stay here. Exhale, release, give yourself a hug. Squeeze tight. Okay, we're going to find our way down to our backs. So we worked a lot of our upper body and our core. We're starting to move down the body. Let's go into happy baby pose first. And don't worry about your happy baby. If it's easier for you to grab on to the outer shins and then pull down so the knees are a little closer to the ground, go ahead. Practicing ahimsa on yourself. No harm to your body. Maybe starting to sway yourself side to side here. And then dropping your knees or your feet down to the ground. And let's bring them mat distance apart. Arms go out wide. Slowly dropping your knees over to the left. And then taking that left arm, reaching it up overhead towards the right. So we're taking a side stretch along the left side of the body, finding expansion. And there'll be a contraction along the right side of the body. Notice if a part of your back is lifting off the ground, maybe shimmy in a way that you can keep both shoulder blades down equally. One more breath. Exhale, coming back to center as your knees come back up to the sky. Feel that. And now allowing your knees to fall over to the other side. It's the right for me. And you can keep your hands where they are. If you'd like to add on a little extension along the lateral side of the body, take the right arm, reach it up for the left, and shimmy the shoulders until you can feel a little more grounding and even distribution. Allowing your breath to really feel and expand the lungs. The deeper the inhale, the more that you can push down the organs, which stimulates the vagus nerve. And that can help calm your nervous system. So if you're feeling especially stressed out and overwhelmed right now, take a really deep inhale and hold it at the top. And a super slow exhale through the nose. And then coming back through center. This time taking your knees into your chest. And we're going to draw circles with our knees away from each other. So I'm going to move so you can see what I'm talking about here. Instead of my knees moving in the same direction, they're moving apart and then together again. Okay? So we're going for that type of movement. You might hear a little snap, crackle, and popping. And then reverse direction. Notice if you're rushing through the movement, and try to move a little slower, especially in the areas that feel a little stickier. Take a little longer moving through those spots. Yeah. And giving yourself a hug, lifting your head and shoulders off the ground, drawing your knees towards the face. And then exhale, releasing the feet and hands down to the ground. Puff the chest up slightly here. And so we're going to start working the core because I want us to get into a little tremoring at the end. So a tremoring is a physical release to emotional storage. And to do that, usually you want your core to be nice and tired. So we're going to do a few movements here to exhaust the core before moving into our final movement, which will be the tremoring and then Shavasana, okay? So before even coming into our on the back work, let's roll ourselves up and down the spine. And we're going to come into tabletop position again. So if you want to roll to your side to get there, go ahead. Okay, tabletop position. And we're going to come out into plank, forearm plank. So for your forearm plank, bring your hands down. You can either have your hands down like this, flat palms, or into fists. Now, if you go into fists, you're going to want to squeeze really tight with the pinky edge down on the ground. And have them be in the same line as your elbow, shoulder distance apart. So if you have that block, you can even place the block in between the hands or the fists, okay? Whatever your prop was. And then to come into plank pose, walk your feet back, keeping the heels over the toes if you can. So notice if you're pushing back through your heels, see if you can push a little forward. Let's just actually do a few of those movements where we push our heels forward and then back again. And then forward, back. One more until coming to the middle, wherever the middle feels for you. You can't see yourself, so who knows. If at any point you need to bring your knees down to the ground, go ahead. We're going to be here for about a minute because we want to tire out the core. So there's different degrees of difficulty here. Difficulty level number 1 is keeping your knees down on the ground, but still drawing the navel into the spine. So doing a little bit of that core engagement. Level number 2, tucking the toes as you lift the knees off the ground and trying to lift the kneecaps a little higher. Engaging your thighs, strong legs. Adding a little bit more to this, protract the shoulder blades so you're spreading them further apart and squeeze your fists a little tighter. I'm already having a hard time breathing here, but you can make it even harder. So the hardest part is magnetically, not actually moving, but imagining that your toes and your elbows are magnetized towards each other. So they're trying to move in closer to center. Squeezing here, so you're having a deep crunch, contraction all the way in the middle front line of your body for 5. 4. Are we still breathing? At any point, feel free to drop down to your belly for 2. 1 more breath. Keep squeezing everything as much as you can, and then exhale. Release everything down to the ground. Rested cheek. Whew. And forget it ever happened. Maybe bending the knees and slowly windshield wiping side to side. So I love that movement. It really wakes up all those muscles, gets them nice and heated. It's a good pain, right? Okay, so we're going to come up into one Sphinx pose. The lion in the Sahara Desert. Softening your breath. Notice if you're hunching the shoulders, see if you can peel the shoulders away from each other. All right, coming back into your tabletop position, drawing your sit bones back to your heels, and we're going to come all the way back down to our backs again. Okay. So we're going to do something called, well, I was going to do, we'll do dead bug pose, why not? Reaching your legs up, and you can have them their hip distance apart or together, it's up to you. And your arms can come up as well. So this is sort of working opposite sides of our mind, and it's kind of confusing at first. So if at the first time it feels like you're doing it and it makes no sense, the more you practice, the easier it will become. So keeping both legs extended long, bend the right knee, trying to keep the knee over the hip, and then the left elbow, okay? And then switch sides. Both extend back up as you bend the left knee and the left elbow, or the right elbow, sorry, opposites. And then straighten here. Right knee, left elbow. And then straighten here. And opposite. Okay, so you can stay here if this feels okay to you. If you want to go a little deeper, keep your arms and legs straight and then have them travel away from each other. So for example, I'll take my right leg out long and my left arm out long, trying to keep my opposite arms and legs still setting energetically up. And then inhale, coming back to center and switching sides. Left leg, right arm. And coming back up and switching sides. It is so confusing. My mind wants to do both sides of the same leg and arm, but I'm trying my best. Using my brain as a muscle. You know, and if I mess up, I mess up, right? It's not the end of the world. We're not getting gold stars here. Yeah, I almost messed up there. Okay, if this still feels a little too easy for you, lift your head and shoulders up, up, up off the ground and continue this movement. Right leg, left arm. And then switching sides, sort of like we're swimming and scuba diving. Have you been scuba diving before? You take these really big, slow kicks. So it's not like you're swimming in a pool where you want to propel yourself quickly. You have these huge fins on. And for you to move with grace, you want to take these big kicks versus fast. So they're slow and graceful. All right, we're halfway through. Whatever choice you chose, stick with it. Notice your breath. If your head and shoulders are lifted, lift them a little bit higher. Alexa, stop. She was letting me know I've got a few minutes left to go. How's your core feeling? If your core is tired, you can give up at any point. I'm going to do just a few more rounds. And then exhale whenever you're ready. Woo! Dropping your head back down to the ground, giving yourself a hug. And then allowing your soles of your feet to come together as your knees go wide. Arms come down by your sides and press the palms down into the ground here as you shimmy your shoulders a little closer together, puffing the chest. And then as you push the soles of your feet together, slowly begin to lift the hips, lift the glutes. So you'll notice a little bit of a sway movement going on here. Instead of bridge where you have 2 points of connection with your feet, you have one here. So it's more like a tripod, and that's a little bit less stable. And so you might immediately start noticing a little bit of a sway or a pulse in the hips, in the inner thighs, outer thighs, the glutes. And don't force it, just allow whatever happens to happen. Maybe you lift the hips up a little higher, pushing the soles of your feet a little bit more into each other. So the more that you can push your feet together, the more muscle engagement you have of those core muscles. Keep pushing your hands down. Maybe you lift the chest up a little bit more to find more space in the back body. Soften the face. Notice if your jaw started to get tense. And just be aware of what's happening down there. Not forcing your body to sway or move in any way. Just allowing however it wants to move. So we're going to be up here for another 30 seconds or so. By no means do you have to stay up with me. If your hips or any part of your body needs to come back down and rest for a moment, go ahead. Take a few breaths if you need to. Otherwise, stay up, lifted. As you continue to push the feet together. Maybe a little bit of inner thigh squeeze, as though someone's pushing down on your outer or your inner thighs and you're trying to resist that push. You're keeping a lift. Let's be here for 10 more breaths. Soften the face. Soften the toes. And then exhale, keeping your body in this recline or this position, allowing the feet to not push as deeply into each other and your knees fall down to the ground. So now you're in reclined butterfly or bound angle pose. And we'll take a breath here. And before we begin to feel the tremoring, take awareness of your body. And then begin keeping the hips down this time. So notice my glutes and hips stay low. My knees begin to draw up. So my feet are now pushing together and my knees are drawing up slowly. They'll go up a few inches. And you might notice a little bit of shaking happening. That same pulsing sensation. And if you're not feeling anything, that's perfectly fine too. Some days I feel a lot of tremoring and some days I feel nothing at all. It doesn't mean that I haven't had a stressful day and that I don't have emotions to release. It just means my body might need a different modality, like crying, or maybe throwing a ball outside, or hitting a pillow. There's different ways that we can move our body. So if you're not feeling anything at all, maybe try lifting your knees up a little higher off the ground until you find that sweet spot. And we're not rushing here to get our knees pointing up to the sky. We're going to spend a minute or two allowing our body just to move. And if this is your first time taking this kind of movement, this tremoring, be okay with whatever is. And know the more you practice, the more you'll feel the subtleties. Soften your face. Relax the jaw. Relax the shoulders. It's okay if you have a little core engagement here, where you're pushing your back body down into the ground as you're also lifting the knees up a little higher and pushing the soles of your feet together here. So you'll see that you might get in a position where you stay and you tremor and then you lift and then it stops. And then you lift up again and you find a new tremor and then it stops. And the shaking might be more intense in different areas. It might not exist anywhere at all. We'll spend another minute here as your knees continue slowly finding their way up. Eventually the soles of your feet can come down to the ground to restabilize the spine and make it a little bit more of a release versus an active tremor, more of a passive release. I'm still in my active one. I'm trying to get my knees as high up as I can slowly, like that Suzanne Summers. I'm resisting an invisible force on my inner thighs. It's there pushing into me, and I resist, and I shake, and I allow. Whenever you're over it, feel free to enter your Shavasana or Happy Baby pose before Shavasana, especially if you were shaking a lot. Happy Baby is a nice way to slow that down. If you're shaking an intense amount, maybe go get yourself a drink of water before laying back down on the ground for your final resting pose. So I'm now releasing the soles of my feet down to the ground, repositioning my hips slightly so I can soften and just feel. So I feel this undercurrent of a vibration right now in my body. Take a few inhales through the nose and exhale it out through the mouth. I'm moving into happy baby pose. Remember, you can take your time moving in and out. Sometimes it feels nice to do a little bit of a shake of the hands and feet, especially if you felt a lot of energy being stored in your limbs. You can just shake it out, visualize it, leaving your body, all that stress, all that anger, all that pain. And it can be anything from today, from an hour ago, from a week ago, from your childhood. Instead of holding on to that emotional trauma, let it go. And then exhale, find your way into your Shavasana, softening all the muscle groups, the fingertips, the toes, the big leg muscles, your thighs, your hamstrings, your calves. Breathe in and soften. And since ahimsa is our word today, breathe in and out compassion. Maybe you know somebody in your life who's resistant to sheltering in place. Send them a little bit of compassion. Sometimes it's hard for us to see the global connection. To understand how we're all connected. But if we send them compassion and kindness and not judgment, perhaps they'll also go inside, not just into their homes, but into their hearts. Slowly beginning to deepen your breath. noticing any qualities of the breath and how the nervous system feels right now. Reaching your arms up overhead, taking a deep stretch. Think about how a cat would move in the morning. Then exhale as you roll over to one side, resting your head on your arms. And then taking your time, no rush. Finding your way up to a comfortable seat. Bringing your hands together, heart center, with your eyes closed here. Taking inventory of how you feel. If you're feeling really energized, that's very normal. After that type of practice, if you're feeling really grounded, that's also normal. Whatever you're feeling right now is normal. Allow it to be. Allow whatever emotions arise later today, maybe right now, to move through you. If you noticed, I'm not a person who holds in. I want us to practice letting go over and over. Setting an intention for your practice, maybe to be more compassionate, to be more non-harmful to those in our lives and to ourselves. Slight bow of the head. Hands come to forehead. Be light and shine. Hands come back to heart. Be light and love. Namaste. Thank you for joining me for this practice together. I hope you have a beautiful and lovely Tuesday or whatever day you chose to watch this.